How's it going, everybody? My name's Carpo, and I'd like to talk for a minute just about vaping. Vaping saved my ass. Vaping allowed me to continue my addiction to the oral fixation of cigarettes without smoking or combusting material. Now, I'm not going to get into the semantics and the details about what smoking is or whether or not vaping is harmful. There is still some controversy about things like diketones and a variety of compounds that are used in the fluids, and whether or not taking huge, monstrous vape clouds is dangerous for your health. The point is that it's obviously healthier than cigarettes. And this is something that I can say, relatively surely and feel confident about. As a, sirens always, as a person who smoked for 25 years, I tried to quit smoking a few different times, and I smoked about a pack a day for a long time, and then over the past decade or so, I kind of cut down slightly to maybe a half pack or so a day, but still was smoking. And every time I would quit, I would say, I can do this, and I would quit for a year, and then the next time I quit for 2 years, and then I started smoking for a couple of years, and then I quit for another year, and smoked for another year, and it was kind of an endless loop. And I realized that I'm not going to bring in the addictive personality, because that's kind of a misnomer, and it's kind of an excuse people use, because we're all addictive personalities, but it just depends on what you're addicted to. And for me, smoking was something that I enjoyed, but I hated doing, So even though I feel slightly guilty about vaping, it's not even remotely clear as much as cigarettes. And I've only been vaping for a year now, a little over a year. But to me, it seems like an eternity. But when I compare that, I smoked for 25 times longer than I've vaped. So it's okay if I vape for a few years. And a lot of folks have said, well, you got to reduce down to the nicotine levels, down to 6, then down to 3, then 0. And I think that's great, but give yourself a little bit of time. And don't rush it. Make sure that you still enjoy vaping if you're vaping. And I'm making this video because I know that there are a lot of people out there that I know who are friends and family who smoke. But I also know that each of you know people who smoke, or maybe a smoker yourself that has been considering vaping. And maybe you get that same story that I hear from all the people who said, oh, it's just not the same as smoking. No, it's not the same as smoking. That's the point. When you get vapor in your face, it doesn't burn your nose and your eyes like it does cigarettes do. It doesn't affect other people. Now, if you blow huge clouds in people's faces, yes, it can be annoying to people. And unfortunately, that's what brought about this problem with the vaping bill. I keep forgetting to mention this because with all the things that are going on with, the DEA kratom ban and all the different things that have been banned through history, you think about vaping, and now they passed this bill where the guys at the vape shop that I go to, they're all up in arms about this because they can't help people rebuild their coils. They can't work on people's devices anymore. For those who don't know, a coil is just basically, there's 2 little coils inside here that you build yourself, or you can buy pre-made ones, and then it's got the wick that goes into the coil. And all they would do is build the little coils for people and put them in. Well, the new law and the new bill says that they can't do that. And stores have to pay these huge fines and bills to carry this stuff. But on top of that, one of the things that really got me was they said that they're not allowed to say that smoking may be more dangerous than vaping to customers. It's like one of the big rules they can't talk about. They can't give any personal testimonials either. And this leads me to believe that, yeah, somebody's got their finger in the pocket on this one. The cigarette industry at first probably scoffed at vaping, and after a while realized that they could profit on it too. But when it comes down to what it actually is, people realize that these little mod boxes and these chambers can be made by anybody. You don't have to be a cigarette company, yet, and that's where I'm going with this. The fluid inside is nothing but propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin with a little bit of flavoring and some nicotine. This can be made by anybody in their basement. You can order USP nicotine on eBay and have it delivered to your door. And beyond that, it's just going down to the store and buying glycerin and stuff that you can get anywhere. So therefore, we don't need the cigarette companies anymore. And they don't like that. I can't think of why they would make such crazy regulations on this other than more control over something that they're unsure of. But they already make plenty of money killing people with cigarettes. And let me say that, you know, talked a lot about the scheduling of substances, and I was thinking earlier that, you know, if anything is going to be scheduled, shouldn't nicotine be a Schedule 1 substance? Has addictive potential, has a high potential for abuse, and it can alter your perception. You know, smoking does affect your mind. But you know what? What's one thing is that I've noticed is when I was a smoker, and I'd get up in the morning and have a cigarette, after the first few drags, it would make me tired. I might go in and kind of sit there with my eyes closed. And I used to think that was nicotine. And people would talk about nicotine being this dangerous poison because it is used as an insecticide. But something always told me there was more to it. Well, since I started vaping, even when I'm vaping high nicotine levels, I never, ever in the morning get that tired feeling from vaping like I did from smoking. And that leads me to instantly conclude that smoking, it's the carbon monoxide or the other components of it that are causing that feeling. And that kind of sucks. Sucks to think of how many times I've smoked and been tired because of carbon monoxide or, you know, whatever. The past is the past. But it's sad that so many people smoke and that it's considered acceptable. While we're banning all these substances that are actually medicinal and helping people, you know, it doesn't mean we should ban nicotine. We shouldn't. But my point is that if we're going to be consistent in the way that we approach substances, you know, we should be approaching the ones that are actually killing people. And cigarettes and alcohol kill more people than anything. And so it's, as far as drug-related, you know, God, I think it was like 88,000 deaths a year from alcohol. And 28,000 from opiates. And half of those are from legal opiates. But the smoking deaths, it's just amazing. It's the #1 preventable cause of premature death. But it's just socially acceptable, you know. And they finally find something that's an alternative like vaping, and it finally catches on, and then they start putting all these regulations on it like they do with everything else. It's pretty messed up. Fixing up your own device and building your own coils might not be for you. You might not want to fiddle with that kind of stuff, in which case I would recommend to just buy a smaller portable unit that's, you know, easy to fill, has replaceable coils. If you're a tinkerer or a fiddler like I am, you'll want to build all your own stuff. And you might grow into different types of devices. And I guess that's the one thing, you know, to be honest, is that we have a fixation of holding on to a cigarette, okay? And that becomes more addictive than the nicotine itself. You know, like I was saying that the nicotine is addictive, yes. But nicotine itself, there were actually some recent studies that showed that nicotine actually helps the heart to build new muscle, and it does some beneficial things for the body, but it's just that when it's in the delivery form of a cigarette and in the quantities people consume, it's dangerous. And the poison, the cure is always in the dose, you know, cure or poison. And that doesn't mean that smoking is okay, it doesn't mean that vaping is okay, or that nicotine's good for you. It just means that we need to realize that small amounts of certain things are not that harmful. And for the people who already have the addiction of smoking, switching to vaping is going to be much less harmful for them, I think. So, anyway, those are just my vaping opinions. And what can I say? I'm biased. But you can switch between devices, fluids, flavors, and that mixes it up and keeps it interesting for the novelty. I imagine one day I'll probably quit smoking, or quit vaping, but I don't want to yet. I still enjoy it. And perhaps this is my security blanket, you know? Just like a sucking a thumb. It's like cigarettes are sucking on the teat of addiction, but, you know, it is what it is, right? We all got something. Anyway, vape on. I'll talk to y'all later.